It's the most wonderful time of the year. These are the real presents under the tree. This is what we mean when we say Happy New Year. Hashtag Deepfield, who will win in Monster Energy Supercross in the new season. It's time for our preview shows brought to you by Monster Energy, Maxima, Fly Racing, and Motorsport. Be sure to check the Motorsport QR codes on the screens for the latest deals during the episode. And now let's talk about three riders who won this title before and won it back this year. Yeah, welcome to the annual Racer X Monster Energy Supercross season preview videos. This is episode 1 of 5. Jason Weigandt, Jason Thomas, and Steve Matthes here. JT, former pro racer. Steve, former pro mechanic. I'm not a professional and was not at anything, but we're going to break down the 2025 Supercross season. Now, normally we do these at Steve's palatial estate with the high ceilings in Las Vegas, but Steve, JT, and I have been so busy with big-time broadcast TV meetings and planning and broadcast, we didn't have time to go to your house. JT, any regrets?
No, and I think the real kind of feather in our hat, or cap, I should say, was that award we got, Weech. Like, that was such validation. And
a major award, Steve. We won a Telly Award. Absolutely. Same one you'll see on the shelves of ESPN broadcasters. But you were not part of any of these big-time real broadcast meetings we've been doing the last couple of weeks.
Listen, it's sad, the elitist that you two have turned into. I brought you into the media game, both of you, with my podcast shows and my Pulp Mech show, and you guys have forgotten about the common man, and I am here. I represent the common man, the common thought, and it's sad what's become of you two, that you couldn't make it out of Vegas, and we got to do these on Zoom, but you know what? It is what it is, and I'll continue to drop some knowledge bombs on you guys.
Yes,
go ahead, JT.
When I think of social media and the perception of Steve Matthes on there, that's exactly what I think of as the common man. That's definitely how they view you. Kudos on that.
Yes.
Thank you.
We did not go to his palatial estate with the high ceilings. I'm trying to circumnavigate and prevent, Steve, you trying to hold our feet to the fire with a different part of this program. It has become an annual tradition like Christmas and New Year's for you to argue who is in show 1. But I got an end around this year. We already know, Steve, Jett Lawrence's situation. We know he's the best Supercross rider currently in the world. We know he's a defending Supercross champion and SMX world champ. So we don't need to talk about Jett in show 1. We already have a known common denominator there. We'll talk about him and his brother later. So let's just talk Cooper Webb, Eli Tomac, and Chase Sexton in show 1. Do you like that, Steve?
It's a good one, Weech. You have pulled some strings here. We all know the Chase Sexton text that you got for leaving him out of the show a few years ago. Last year was Cooper Webb. Yep. Last year was Cooper Webb with the text. He was not happy either. You brought this on yourself. I don't start it. I just respond to, the glaring errors that you make, and then these riders have reminded you. And I was looking forward, rubbing hands together on how you would get around this year. And even though you are elitist and you've lost the touch with the common man, in this instance, you've done a good job. This is very, very smart, Weigandt, what you've done here. You put the Lawrence brothers in their own episode, and I think you've captured the 3 other guys that could possibly take this title in show 1. So kudos, my man.
Yeah, there was a race, I believe, Foxborough, where Cooper was really going fast, and we texted him after qualifying and said, "What is going on?" And he said, "Just trying to get into show 1, man." So congrats to you, Cooper Webb. You've done it. JT, do you see this as, we know Jett is the target? Are these the 3 guys? Are these the 3 most likely candidates besides Hunter, who we're going to put in Jett's show? Are these the 3 most likely?
Yeah, I think so. And I like that you mentioned Hunter in there. But to be fair, if you asked these riders, and we have been meeting with them. I got to go to Eli Tomac's house. You met with them in California, Steve. You weren't there. But we asked them, what do you have to do? And all of them have said, well, I have to beat Jett Lawrence. So I think it's only fair. And that's not us putting Jett into that rare air of the target for everybody. That's their own words saying that they've got to go beat Jett Lawrence in 2025. So yeah, this makes the most sense. If somebody's going to beat Jett Lawrence, it's likely to be one of these 3.
And JT,
that's great.
Moment. Go ahead, Steve.
Oh, that's great. You guys did that. I went to Vancouver, spoke to Ken Roxon and Eli Tomac. And then I went to Paris to deal with the Lawrence brothers and Cooper Webb. So I've been globetrotting at real races with these real competitors. And you guys are sitting in a room where everyone's bike is great and everyone is happy and no one's felt any better. So yeah, I'd like to think good job on that going to
That's
the
all
stadium,
outdated
guys. I was
info.
all over the world.
All old info though. We were talking to them after all this, further into boot camp, closer to real racing in America in the SMX World Championship.
And I will say that pretty much every rider has never been in a better place mentally and physically than they are right now. It's amazing. Amazing. JT,
what about
also on the ground, you went to the Tomac house. You actually went to Eli Tomac's mysterious bat cave in Colorado and even saw his tracks.
Yeah, it was incredible. Thank you to the entire Tomac family, from parents to Jessica's wife to even the kids. Everybody was really hospitable. And I had never been to that part of the world anyway, that southwestern part of Colorado. But for me, I learned a lot, and yes, we'll get to share a lot of those things in the NBC pre-season show that comes out on December 29th. We'll get to show a lot of that. But for me personally, outside of professionalism, I got to learn a lot about him and his background and how, we've seen beast mode over the years and we've seen him do these miraculous things on a motorcycle, and you start to understand how he got there. And I'll just say it before we even start to talk about the racing, the fact that he's able to do all that by himself, he really rides by himself almost all the time. Yes, sometimes Jeremy Martin was there, Zach Osborne was there, but you're talking about years ago. He rides by himself primarily all the time. And to have that much intensity and to stay at the forefront of racing, he just won that WSX title. It's incredible. I've never seen anything like that, to be that isolated and to still be that good.
Well, Steve, you were on the ground floor, at least in Vancouver, the first leg of that WSX title. Tomac's been racing all off season. We know he had the Achilles injury. He wasn't quite the same guy in Supercross last year. That was my bad. On preview show last year, I said he'll be the same Eli. He was not. Are you seeing a better, more 2022, 2023 like Eli coming for 2025?
Yeah, look, we saw what he did in SMX, right? Kenny did get him a couple of times, but for the most part, in WSX, Kenny did get him a couple of times. For the most part, he was better. SMX, of course, was terrific, right? And so he should be better. I was, out of the three of us, I was the one that was a little down on him last year, right? We almost went into this.
On Tomac?
Okay.
No, I hold on, because I want to take a victory lap of me saying that there was no way he was going to be ready early on. Like I was very much on that he is not going to be as ready as everybody thinks with 2 months preparation coming off that injury. So
Sir, don't you remember can Eli Tomac win this title or all of that on the podcasts?
Yes, but I also was very, very much preaching that you're not going to see the best Eli until probably March or April. Very much so.
Okay. But again, you can settle this, Judge Weigandt. At some point early in Supercross, you two were full on Eli Tomac bandwagon, and I was pulling back on this.
All these things happen. It's a long season, man. All of these things are true. I just can't believe we have two guys arguing over who was least on a bandwagon.
Well, no,
I think I was least on the bandwagon.
I just wanted to be on record. I was planning on literally celebrating this moment, because I know we just like, he's going to be fine, he's going to be good. And I was like, I don't think so. Every experience that I've ever had and watching other people have, it always takes longer to get back to your best self than you think. And let's throw Jett Lawrence out of the equation for SMX this last September. That was an anomaly. But every other time, especially with a really significant injury like an Achilles, it's always tougher. And maybe you could say age, Weege. Maybe the argument that you and Steve have with the age thing is a factor. He's 10 years older than Jett Lawrence, so maybe that was a big part of this too. But there's no way you can discount the fact that the Eli Tomac we saw late in Supercross was not much better than the one we saw early. He got better. And yes, he got injured late, but like that St. Louis round was the first glimpse of the true Eli Tomac that we have come to know and love, and maybe we're going to see in 2025.
But that's not my question. Yeah, he did get a win at St. Louis. He did get better. But look, I don't think there were many moments in 2024 Supercross where we're like, he's the best guy, like he was in 22 and a lot of 2023. So can he be even better at Anaheim or better at Glendale or something like that than we saw him at any race Supercross 2024? That, to me, is the real question. Can he be better than anything we saw in Supercross last year, this year?
Better than 2024, yes.
Yes. Yep.
To me, I think he's close to where he was in 2023 right now. Mm-hmm. I believe that. He has said as much.
Yep.
And it's testament to how long it takes to get back there. I think the bigger question, and I don't want to poo-poo your question, but I think the bigger question is the 2022, 2023 Eli good enough to beat a best self Jett Lawrence? To me, that's the whole kit and caboodle, because I do personally believe that the best Eli Tomac can beat everyone else. I do. I think that version, he's proven it. He was able to beat these guys. He was able to beat Sexton. He had an 18-point lead before he tore his Achilles. He beat him the prior summer, right? I think has gamed that out. I think you'd also have to say Sexton might not be quite as good as he was in that version. So Eli Tomac in his best self, that's it. Is he there? And is that good enough? That's why we go racing. We're going to find out the answer to that, but I can't wait to find out, because that is an incredible thing. If we get that dynamic, sprinkling some Webb, sprinkling some Sexton, which we're going to get to, it fireworks all season long if we get that.
Steve, JT does bring up a good point. Tomac was awesome in SMX. He was definitely better in SMX, I think, than he was in Supercross earlier in the year. But for example, like that first moto in Las Vegas, Eli takes off. He has a giant lead. He's riding well. Jett Lawrence still gets him. So maybe that is the bigger question. What level is Tomac, or does it matter what level? Because Jett's just at a level that everyone's trying to get to. That might be the biggest question.
Yeah, listen, he's going to turn 33 this year. The oldest rider to ever win a Supercross was 34. Weege, maybe you heard of that gentleman. And
beat Tomac at Daytona.
He did. And when Eli won the title, I believe he was the oldest Supercross champion ever. That was now 3 years ago. So I think we see more of the same. A couple of wins, a bunch of podiums, a lot of cheers. He's going to be a massively popular guy. This is his final season, he said. And maybe we get J-Mart, at the final round to ride out with him on the back of his bike. So I think we see more of the same. I really do. It's just, Weege, good job on setting this show up, and also good job on your theory about an older Supercross rider. And I think it holds very much water on what we'll see this year with Eli Tomac.
Yeah, in a nutshell, that theory is that they can still be great a lot. They're just not great every single weekend, no matter what. They just have random weekends where they don't have it, whether they're uncomfortable. Maybe their body feels horrible when they wake up in the morning. But for me, jury's out on Tomac. I don't know. I don't want to assume
jury's out.
Age thing here.
Oh, okay. So
I don't want to assume it.
Okay. One thing
to me, the jury's in. The jury's in. It's just, is the verdict that he is good enough to beat Jett Lawrence 17 rounds consistently? To me, that's the question. I think you're gonna get Eli's best in 2025. I just don't know if a 32/33-year-old Eli's best is good enough.
So yes, you guys,
I'm more worried, not of the age thing, but just Jett's level is so high, age doesn't even matter. That's all.
Okay, so you guys are on TV broadcast and you don't want to offend anybody. So is every rider from here on out going to be the jury is in? We just don't know. Because that's not going to make for not going to make for great videos.
But I just said he's back. He's back. But for anybody to pretend that they know if that version of Eli is better than Jett Lawrence, you're fooling yourself.
Can we get an opinion on these shows? Can we get what you think is going to happen?
I feel like me literally saying that there's a good chance that Jett Lawrence's level is so high that no one can get there is going to offend every single rider on the gate besides Jett. So I feel like I've really stuck my neck out there with quite a gnarly opinion right there. I mean, I just literally said I think he's at a level that maybe no one can get to at any age.
Well, I took it as both of you are like, we'll see. No, Jett, we will see.
I'll put it out there. I believe Jett Lawrence is the best rider on the planet, bar none. Indoor, outdoor, motocross track, SMX track.
Save that for the Jett Lawrence segment.
I know, but you're asking me for a hard opinion, and I'm truly not scared to give you one. But things happen in racing. We've all seen it, right? Barsha T-bones people in the middle of Triple Crown. Like, Tomac's got to be there and be opportunistic, and I think that's going to be the common theme as we work through. Is these guys have to win when wins are available, and they have to be close every time it's not.
One thing to think about too, and this happened during the year, this past 2024 year. So Eli has proven in SMX that maybe it doesn't matter, but he has stopped working with Ricky Gilmore, who was his sort of suspension guru and is a very smart guy at KYB. Gilly and him aren't together anymore, and Gilly and John and Eli were so tight. And Gilly's gone now. He's still helping out the Star guy, still helping out KYB. but he's not Eli's personal guy anymore. Again, Eli showed in SMX that, can still get it done, but man, in Supercross, where setup so important, and we all know Eli, the rear end height, we all know that.
That's everything.
It'll be interesting to see. Yeah, we'll be interesting to see if that affects Eli. I'm on the record right now. We're going to see more of the same. Couple of wins, bunch of podiums, lots of cheers.
I'm with you on that. I'm just saying that that's not the biggest factor. The biggest factor is how good Jett is. I'm with JT. I think there's a world where Tomac can beat everybody else, but the Jett thing is going to be tough for anyone to square up with. One other Tomac note, he is now spending December in Florida with the Star Riders. I think he had gone to California in the past when it got too cold to ride in Colorado. So that's a little bit of a change up there. Let's get to his teammate who will be riding with in Cooper Webb. JT, that opportunistic part that you mentioned, that is the Cooper Webb specialty. At the meetings that Matthes didn't get to go to in California, that's what Webb told us. I might not be the best guy any particular weekend, but over 17 rounds, I'm pretty hard to beat. And I can't argue with that logic at all. He almost pulled it off last year.
Yeah, he knows what the strategy is, and he's not fooling himself, but he's also extremely confident in being able to execute this game plan, this very specific game plan that he's constructed, which is be there every single time. And when the doors open, blast through it with everything you have, gain as many points, get the win, because Jett's still young. He's shown a propensity to make mistakes at times. Things have happened to him, and he damn near almost pulled it off last year. And he is further along in his program this year than he was last year. And I think he is really leaned into that on a confidence level. Is like, if I was able to be there coming in the way I did, I know what I have to do. We're further along with the bike. I'm in better shape. I understand my diet better. I understand how to not necessarily attack Jett, but be there when the door is open. And whether or not that wins a championship, I don't know, right? We just spent 15 minutes talking about how good Tomac's going to be. But I do like that he is very realistic about how this is going to get done. He understands that Jett is an enigma. He's going to be very difficult to just beat. And Cooper even told us, when Jett's on, forget it, right? Like, if Jett is firing on every cylinder and it's that night, you're not going to beat him. No one is going to beat him. But there will be other nights when the door is open and you have to be second place when Jett's on. And when Jett's not on, you've got to get to the front and win, just like he did in Seattle, just like he did in those races where he found a way against all odds to win. And I would even say, you look at a race like Birmingham last year, he was sitting there like 3 seconds back. And we all talk about this really secure margin that Jett Lawrence is comfortable with. But for Cooper, it's sitting there. That's what he feels like he has to do. And on that night, Jett didn't screw up. But I think if Cooper sits there and sits there and sits there and gets the starts, that opens the door for a possible championship. And you have to love the strategy to it. He's not looking at it going, yeah, I'm just going to go out and beat Jett. No problem. I can beat him straight up. I think he understands that Jett has these strengths, but Cooper Webb is that wily, sneaky veteran with that craftsmanship in his racing. There's a chance there. Like, I think anybody counting out Cooper Webb is doing it to their own demise.
That's why he's in show one. Steve, I also think it's an annual tradition on these shows to have come off of seeing Cooper Webb look really slow in off-season races like Paris. You'll see photos of him looking very heavy. We finally aren't talking about that. He's been really good from everything we've seen. And you, yes, got to see it in person in an actual race.
Yeah, so when I was at dinner with Cooper Webb in Paris, when I was hanging out in the pits during the long, lengthy breaks between races, just, shooting the shit, making fun of Phil, and talking about the ins and outs of the Yamaha. We were talking about clutch setup. I'm a Blue Crew guy too. So lots of great time one-on-one with Cooper Webb. And I told him, look, I'm not even going to judge Paris. I'm over that because
common man, this guy.
Common man. Yep.
I'm not even going to judge Paris, but it turned out Paris was pretty good for him. He still got beat, but he certainly led Jett for over half of a main event. And was pressuring Jett at times. So we'll get to the Jett subject next show. But yeah, I mean, look, he got second in the series last year. I think he gets third this year in the series. I think he wins some races. He looks better. It couldn't have got much worse coming off SMX on his return to Star Yamaha last season. So for all the reasons that you guys just talked about, he's ready. He's ready to go. He's in fly racing now. So he looks better. That's awesome. And, Blue Crew, Fly Racing, I got a lot of time for Cooper Webb. Really funny guy, great dude, and really comfy in his own skin. And just like JT said, like, he knows, man. He knows what he's got to do. Like, he's not going to sit there and be like, Jett's nothing special. He told me that at dinner. He told me that in the pits. Jett's awesome, and he's got to be there to capitalize, just like JT said.
Good time to mention our sponsors. Yes, Fly Racing. Thanks for coming on board as always. And Maxima. Got some Maxima back here. My favorite product, the chain cleaner. Oh, you got contact cleaner. I still don't know what contact cleaner is for. What is it for? Help me.
It's basically it cleans on contact.
Okay, I guess could have figured that out 20 years ago. Chain cleaner I like because you don't need to use a pressure washer. You just spray that on your chain and it cleans the dirt and grease right off. Then you lube it up and you've got a fresh chain without having to actually wash your bike, which I love. So thanks to the folks at Maximo. Yeah, JT, Fly Racing for Webb. It's a big step.
It was, and it was just the right time, the right guy. Sometimes you feel like it's almost kind of fate or destiny, the way things kind of play out. But to me, I was going to jump in. I didn't want to interrupt Steve, but Webb's going to be awesome, whether he wins or not. That's literally why we do this thing. But I think he's one of the most misunderstood riders, and he started to change that a little bit. Like, he's starting to let his personality come out, and some of the comments on the podium are just like, oh my, you can't believe what he just said. But that's who he is away from all of this. And he is so, I see myself a little bit, not the talent wise, but the seriousness and the demeanor on race day. It's very hard for him to kind of break out of that. But when he's away from that or the race is over, he is funny, very affable. Like, he's awesome. He's so much, personality to him. And I love that as he's gotten older, he's starting to share that, because I think the more people saw that, the more fans he would have, because this is a great champion, right? 2-time champion. And for people to not know who he is away from that, I think would be a tragedy.
Yeah, I've been to dinner with Coop on Friday night and had a great time. And then the next morning on track walk, he walks right by me like he doesn't even acknowledge me, probably because he doesn't want to do that in public. But for the most part, like, he's just got his game face on, right? He's so serious. So the only bad thing about Cooper Webb, though, before we move on, is I love the fact that he's in Fly. That's awesome. But with Teddy Park's departure from the sport this year, the guys at Fly Racing and Firepower were real close to giving me a bunch of money to start my own privateer team.
Oh.
And then it seems like Coop took that money. And it's fine. It's great. I'm okay with it. But I was going to start the cool team with Fly and get a semi and put these privateer animals in it. And unfortunately, they went with Coop.
Just to give you a little insight, we gave him your cool money and a lot more.
Yeah. But that was my budget. So.
Several teams shut down. Several teams were shut down. Yeah, it is the great tragedy of this sport that often when the riders are winning titles, kind of like Webb when he was winning these titles, Ryan Villopoto when he was winning these titles, they're not able at that younger age to channel the personality and the focus at the same time. And then you find out years later, oh, that's how cool the guy actually was behind the scenes. The Ryan Villopoto that the fans love now, Steve, you talked to that Ryan Villopoto in the lounge of the semi off the record every weekend. But on the podium, he was not that guy. So I'm glad they're at least sticking around long enough. Look at Tomac now. The fans love him. Whether they're going to win the title again or not, at least we have these guys and the fans love them. I think Ken Roczen, another example of that. Probably more love now than in his peak racing days when he was probably the title favorite. It's just kind of how it works. We have one more rider to discuss. Here's my transition to the next segment. Look at this. Thanks, folks at Monster Energy for backing the series and our shows. Chase Sexton, I don't think is getting talked about enough coming into this season. To me, that's the bigger question. I have a feeling I know where Tomac is. Yes, there's some variance. I think we know exactly what we're going to get out of Webb and Jett and Hunter and Roczen and Anderson and all these guys. What Chase Sexton and what Chase Sexton motorcycle are we going to get? Because, Steve, yes, we joke that every rider in the offseason says he's never felt better. Kudos to Sexton for not saying that 1 year ago. He pretty much told us he was struggling, and he struggled. Now, this year he says he's a lot better. But I feel like when Sexton says it, Steve, we can actually believe it because he doesn't always say the proper thing. He just tells you the truth.
Yeah, listen, I wasn't at these elitist Anaheim meetings, but I have checked in with Team Chase Sexton, and he's absolutely in a better place. He's absolutely riding better. He's happier with the bike. He's got a new mechanic in Jay Dungy. And yeah, I think he'll be better. I've got him for second in the points. I've got him for more wins than he did last year. I think he'll be back. He's my biggest question mark because do you guys agree? I said this on the Pulp Mech show, widely, massively popular internet radio show. And I said a Chase Sexton of 2023, that Chase Sexton can run with Jett Lawrence and beat him. I'm not saying most of the time or for the title, but we would get a battle for 1-2 from Sexton of 23, Honda days, with Jett Lawrence. Do you guys agree with that?
I think he's the biggest threat to have that level of ceiling to do it. I do agree with that. I think he's the one guy that you might say, if he dials it in, he can do it straight up. And I don't know if we can say that about anybody else. What do you think, JT?
It's a big question. I think Steve nailed it with he is the biggest question mark because to his own words, he said, I have to figure out the starts. And part of that is himself and the motorcycle. They need to get to a package between the two where there's confidence and a repeatable process on the starts for him to nail it every single time, which I don't know if they're there or not. I can tell you last year and in SMX, they were not there. Secondarily, he's got to get back that sprint speed that he had in 2023. He has to have that if he wants to go and battle those guys at the front. Because if you look at all of 2024 Monster Energy Supercross, you didn't see flashes of that. You saw Chase Sexton being able to fight through adversity, race like Seattle where the track's slow. He kind of was in there and he ended up being bested by Webb at the end, but he was able to fight on certain nights. But when the track's good and you just got to go for it, you've got to send it. We didn't see that from him last year. You didn't see the blazing speed in qualifying practices where he was 13 out of 17 rounds. He was the fastest qualifier. We didn't see anything close to that. And I'm not talking about he was second. We saw him like fifth, sixth, eighth. Those are the types of things that, one, set him up for a really bad mental state going into the night show. And we know from being around him, from talking to him, that stuff weighs on him. He is not a Ken Roczen where he can just go, who cares? You know, Cooper Webb, Ken Roczen, they don't really care. They look at the qualifying time and go, yeah, it doesn't matter. It's a race. I think it matters a little bit more for Sexton. He lets that stuff weigh on his confidence level. And then that rolls into, does he get a good start or not? What does that night look like overall for him? So a little bit of that could be attributed to, hey, you've just got to be mentally stronger than that and understand that qualifying is qualifying and the race is the race. But I think all of those things snowball. If he qualifies fast because he's got speed, that's going to give him confidence on the start. That's going to give him confidence in the race, knowing he's got that speed to burn, which he once did. So I'll finish where I started. I think Steve is right about the question marks. Did he take steps from 2024 into 2025? If he did, it puts him in the ballpark. It puts him in the title fight immediately because of his talent and his ability, and he's been there and done it before. If he didn't, he's going to be in this situation where, well, situationally, if he gets a good start and he's feeling it, cool, he can be in the fight. But there will be these other nights in that scenario where things aren't clicking. He is not happy with X, Y, or Z with the motorcycle, perceived or not. It doesn't have to be real, but if it's in his head, that's all that matters, right? Perception is reality for a lot of these things. And if he doesn't believe that his bike is where it needs to be, or he's not where he needs to be, the rest plays itself out.
Yeah, we have heard that Sexton is competitive almost to a fault, right? Like he wants it so bad that when it doesn't go right, he's not able to, as most guys say, right? Don't get too high or don't get too low. He rides those highs and lows. And that's sometimes awesome. We saw in Pro Motocross when he gets rolling, or he has a good night, he gets rolling, but it can snowball the other way. Steve, I'm impressed I hate when guys talk so much about setup and bike guy that you were able to separate that opinion and say, no, there is some setup stuff for Sexton last year that wasn't working that should be better. This is somewhat bike related, 24 versus 25.
Yeah, he does. It was some of that, right? And Chase is being honest about that too, which is kind of nice to see. He's a breath of fresh air in this sport for sure. But I'm telling you guys, again, you're all waffling, you're on the edge, you don't know, blah, blah, blah. He's going to be better. Chase Sexton will be better. I don't have him winning this championship, but he will be faster. He will be closer to Jett. He will win more. He will be better in qualifying, all of that. So you can stamp that, take it to the bank. And that's going to be awesome for the sport. And I do believe the starts are confidence-wise. A little bit of that is set up, and a little bit of that is, start procedure and mapping. Everything else we know.
I thought Honda had the magic start bike, Steve.
We know Lars has the button.
Okay.
And that's going to be tough to beat.
Yes.
But starts are confidence. And so I think also by feeling more comfy on the bike, Chase will be up there more on the starts.
But hold on. So what do you attribute, Phil watching him do starts in Vegas in practice and going, that's not confidence doing practice starts. Getting off the gate in time qualifying has nothing to do with confidence. So what do you attribute that to if it's pure confidence on the starts?
We don't know if Phil's story's true. We don't know all the ins and outs of that.
Look at Chase Sexton starts. They were terrible most of the time.
Yeah, starts are confidence, man. Starts are confidence. He'll be
You didn't
fine.
answer anything I said.
Yep, I didn't.
Okay,
cool. I think the argument that we're having here where Steve is saying we're not getting bold enough with our opinions is I also think that Tomac will be better than last year, and I also think that Sexton will be better than last year. But that's not really what matters. The only thing that matters to these guys is, am I going to win the title or not? If either Sexton or Tomac or Webb finish second in points this year, they will not care if they were better than last year or not. It is win title or bust for guys of this level. And I think what JT and I are saying, all these stories are cool. Improvement is cool. Is the improvement enough to beat Jett Lawrence and take his title away? That's the only question that matters. And with Jett Lawrence,
no, it's not.
That's
it's not.
It is not.
It's not.
It's not.
No, it's not. My title pick is Jett Lawrence. He's a 700-pound gorilla in this class.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like, what? They can be better, but also not win the title. And winning the title is what they want. So both things can be true. There you go. Do you agree, JT?
I do. Yes.
Yeah.
It's every question that we ask in this show. And I cannot stress this enough. This is not, it happens to be my opinion, but this is their words. These are the things that they say. I have to be better so I can beat Jett Lawrence. That's it. And I know they all respect each other. Eli Tomac knows that Cooper Webb is great. Cooper Webb knows that Eli Tomac is great. That Chase Sexton knows that both of them are great. They all know that. But if you ask them, and I think deep down, I live this, when you're on your bicycle and you're like, Chase does a lot of the skier G and a lot of that stuff, and you're suffering, man. Like, it hurts. You don't want to keep going. Your legs are screaming at you on the bicycle. Your lungs are burning, like all those things. What is driving you? What are you holding on to and gripping for motivation to say, I have to keep going. I have to fight through this. I promise you, deep down for all of them, it is beating Jett Lawrence. And that's really the point. That is the target for all three of these guys in episode 1. Yes, they respect each other. Yes, they understand to win a title, they have to go through each other. But if you want the top of the pyramid and who they're looking at that has to be beaten first, it has to be the number 1 or the number 18, depending on which championship we're in.
In classic form, we're all disagreeing, yet actually agreeing somehow in the same exact thought. And if you want more, just scroll into the comments to see how mad the fans are that we keep talking about how great Jett Lawrence is in the show that's not even about Jett Lawrence. But you're right, Steve.
That's why I keep saying this is their words.
No, it's true.
It's their words.
Everything's measured.
Right? Yep.
Everything's measured against that. And facts are, you can go to the 2023 Supercross season, and who were the 3 guys battling far and away ahead of everyone else in points? It was Cooper Webb, Chase Sexton, and Eli Tomac before Jett was there. Yes, we know how good these guys are. They've all battled each other and won these titles each other before Jett showed up. Like, seriously, like the previous 6 years or something, these were the 3 guys that won the title. All right, that's episode 1. Thanks to our sponsors, Monster Energy, always helping us out with these shows, Fly Racing, and Maxima. Real quick for our sponsors, out of these 3, JT, I'm going to put you on the spot. Who is your pick to fly out of these 3? And this is a tough one because one of them even wears the gear.
Oh, I'm going.
I think I already know what your answer is for your Maxima. Who's going to shine, but who's going to fly out of this group?
I have to go Cooper Webb. He's going to be great. And it really, for me, I want to say Eli Tomac, but having talked to Cooper Webb, he is so confident about what is in front of him and where he was a year ago. He surprised. I don't care who you are. He surprised you at A1 last year. I will just say that. No matter what, he surprised you at A1 last year. And to think where he is now versus where he was then, I think the setup is very, very good for him.
Steve, you already said who you think will finish second in points. So who's your pick to shine courtesy of Maxima SC1?
SC1's fantastic. It got me through many years as a factory mechanic. I would just spray this on my bike and everybody thought I was a good mechanic. So thank you, Maxima. I would say Coop, but he took my money from my privateer team. So I'm down on him. So the shine will be on Chase Sexton. More wins than 2024, higher in the points than 2024, more fast qualifiers than 2024. Chase Sexton, is he back? But he's better.
That's going to be the question for every single rider besides Jett Lawrence in these shows this year, except our 250 show, which will be show 5. This is show 1. Thanks to our sponsors. Thanks for watching. We'll be back to finally talk about the Lawrence brothers, who we've talked about already quite a bit in show 1 and show 2. Thanks for watching.